Good evening, everybody. For those of you who I have not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Steve Shoney. I am the city manager for the city of Upper Arlington. I want to thank you all for coming out this evening to participate in our second open house regarding the Upper Arlington Community Center. So I'm waiting for my slides to come up. We have a few things that we want to cover tonight. Really, what we want to do is spend a little bit of time talking about where we are in the process, and then talk more with you about what the building in its totality is going to be. So to this point, we've spent a lot of time talking about the community center, the functions that the city are going to have in there, but when we did the event last time, we found a lot of questions from folks about, well, what's the role of OSU going to be? How's the other tenant space going to fit into this building? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. We've got Jody Curie from the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center here with us tonight. She's going to talk a little bit about what they're doing. So we've got a big team with us, so we'll go through and introduce some members of the team. We'll talk about what our partnership missions and goals are and some of the things that are going to happen. We're going to have the design team come back and talk a little bit more about our multi-purpose and multi-generational spaces. And then what we want to spend most of our time this evening doing is going over a couple of different scenarios that we have for how the building's going to lay out and stack. It's an up and down building, so when we say stack, really what goes on what floor, what space, what happens next to what space. Those boards that I know are really tempting for some of you to want to turn over, Bill, we've got those there. We've got a couple sets out in the lobby. We are actually broadcasting this over Zoom, and so we've got opportunities for folks who are on Zoom to participate virtually in the same exercise that you all are going to be doing here locally. So for those of you who are on Zoom, thank you for being guinea pigs, and we will do our best to make it work. Please give us feedback at the end as to whether or not you thought it worked. All right, go ahead to the next slide. So a large part of this process is really making sure that we all understand what your goals and vision are for this. We've got ideas about it, right? We've been thinking about this for going on to actually more than 2 years at this point, but we want to make sure that we're coming back and confirming that, and that's a large part of what we want to talk about for tonight. Actually, do I have the ability to advance? Yes. So a little background on timeline. Actually it was closer to about 11 months ago, the Community Center Feasibility Task Force came back and said, yes, we think this is something that we can do fiscally, financially, just simply in terms of the physical space. City Council agreed to put it on the ballot on January 19th. May 4th of this year, the community approved a question that we had on the ballot by 5 votes short of 80%, that we should go forward. We hired our team. We've got our team in place. We have started finding tenants for the building, and then in October we had our first design meeting. We do have a big team. We have, doing our design, we have Perkins & Will and MSA Sport. You'll hear from some folks from those teams here today. We also have Pizzuti Solutions is our owner's rep. We do a great job of building playgrounds and park shelters and things like that, but we haven't quite built a building like this, so we brought on some additional help to help us make sure that the entire team is functioning well. So Pizzuti Solutions is our owner's rep. And then we do have a big team of really detailed technical consultants to help the design team make sure that this building comes together. We will be announcing in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, who our recommended construction manager at risk, the team that's going to lead the construction on this. We hope to be announcing that over the next 2 weeks. We're kind of getting some contracts finalized and some other things. We're really excited. That will round out our team in terms of who's going to be doing this project, and so we will be really ready to kind of get this whole thing moving forward. So I'm going to talk a little bit about in more detail about what it is that we're trying to do here. So as we've thought about this building, words are important, right? You will never hear, well, unless I mess up. I've gotten pretty good at not doing it. You'll almost never hear me refer to this as a recreation center. This is a community center. I'll tell you, I'm even playing around with the idea of just simply dropping the word community. This should be the center of Upper Arlington. This needs to be a place where we're coming together as a community, where you can do things that benefit you and your neighbors and your family members physically, socially. The whole idea of I'm doing everything I can not to say mind, body, spirit, because that's just way too new age for me. But it is, it is taking that holistic approach to how we think about health and community. And very importantly, it is about the entirety of our community, in particular across the age spectrum. So as we go through the building, you will see that we have child watch, so that for those families with young children, they can drop the kids off for no more than 2 hours and go do the program, get the workout in, do what they need to do, and be part of that. At the same time, as I think most looking around the room, my guess is most folks in this room know, we are going to be moving the community or the senior center into this building so that we can do a better job of providing appropriate space and really top-notch programming that meets the needs of all of us as we get older. So, as we've talked about it, this is a big list of words that we come up all the time as we're talking about it. Again, words are important. If there are words that you think we need to have on this list and you're talking to us tonight, let us know if there are things that we're missing. But for me, it really is about being that place that feels like home for us, being that place where everybody feels welcome, being that place where everybody can find what it means to be as healthy a member of the Upper Arlington community as you can. And that's the easiest way for me to summarize it, and these are the kinds of things we're going to be trying to do in there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to one of our key partners tonight. Jody's going to come in and talk about what OSU is going to be doing. I do want to let you know, and this is we're just announcing this today. We do have a second partner that's going to be coming in. Nationwide Children's Hospital is going to be coming in and putting in a facility, doing some sports health, some work with young people with various kinds of challenges where they need to have physical therapy or occupational therapy, and really serving our community in that way. We're so excited to have them, and I think we've had a couple meetings with Nationwide Children's. They've been talking to OSU. We think this is really going to help us fill out, again, the totality of making this an intergenerational facility that meets the complete needs of our community from a health and wellness perspective. So I'm going to let Jody talk a little bit about what OSU is going to do to help on that, and turn it over to her.
All right, awesome. Thank you. All right. So my name is Jody Curie again. I'm the Director of Wellness for OSU for ambulatory sites. And again, just what Steve said, I'm just going to talk about what it's going to look like for us to be in the community center. And I think if you take away one thing from what I say today is really we want to be integrative. We don't want to be up on a floor, on a medical floor in the community center. We want to be doing programming that it allows you to be partnering with us with your health. So on each slide I'll talk about, figure this out. Oh, wrong way. Give me a minute. There we go. Okay. I'm going to talk about what the services that we're going to have in the facility, and then I really want to focus on how those services will not only be a medical service, but how they will also be down in the community center and provide community services for the residents and the community members. So the first line of service we're going to have is integrative medicine. And I'm going to go over these in an additional slide because a lot of these need a little bit more explanation, I realize that. Physical therapy, which probably doesn't need as much explanation. Survivorship Center, multi-generational programming, sports recovery lounge, and what I talked about and what's really going to be the key from this is all the integrated programming that we're going to do. So integrative medicine, if you're familiar at all with where we're currently housed, we're over there off of Kenny Road, right by the big Martha Morehouse Tower. So we are actually going to bring integrative medicine over to the community center. That whole office will move, and it'll now be housed in the community center. So for me and wellness and how I live and breathe, this is a perfect pairing. Because if you really think about integrative medicine, it talks about whole body. It talks about looking at conventional therapies and unconventional therapies to really treat a person as the whole person. And some of those services include massage, wellness programming, which I'll go over in more detail, preventative medicine, chiropractic services, acupuncture, and some specialty programs. This next slide's a little bit busy, and I realize that some of you may not be able to read it. It is very text heavy. However, I do want to point out a couple of the programs that we're going to be offering that are going to be integrative. So acupuncture. You may think, if you've ever done acupuncture, you may think, well, it's a medical service that we do provide. You go in, you see an acupuncturist, you're in a room by yourself with the acupuncturist, and they do that service. But, and what I actually just learned probably just a couple years ago, there's group acupuncture. And it's really doing it in a community-like setting, and it's really focusing on just different things. And it doesn't have to be in a service line. You don't have to be a patient. We actually do this out at the Heights Center, and it is one of our top-rated programs. And it's one of those programs where if you're just learning about what the practice is, or you really just give it a shot, it's a great program to do, like I said, as really more in a community base versus more in a medical office. Another program that we do is nutritional counseling. So again, you can see a dietitian. You can go up to the medical office and see a dietitian. But what we really want to do is be integrative and think about how can we do this in a demonstration kitchen. So the community center is going to have a demonstration kitchen. So how do we bring healthy eating and a healthy lifestyle down to those spaces? And we actually do this. To be honest, I was supposed to be on one of these tonight. Fall is the biggest, I struggle in the fall with all the root vegetables, and I always struggle on how to cook healthy meals. I'm a comfort food kind of guy, kind of girl, and mac and cheese are my thing, but I'm really trying to eat and be better at eating, and that's what these services do. They really just break down some of the things that you're wondering. I mean, there's lots of different things that they do, but right now they're talking about fall and some of the root vegetables. And it's been a great class that I've been attending, but it's tonight, so I'm here, so I'll tell you all about it. And then, of course, we're having physical therapy there. I don't know how much I have to explain about physical therapists. I'm actually a physical therapist. But we're going to do orthopedic physical therapy there, and we're going to focus on geriatric rehabilitation. We're housing our geriatric resident in this space, which will be more senior programming, more physical therapy focused on seniors. We're also going to be doing vestibular rehabilitation, pelvic health. This is growing. This has been, we have needed to do this and grow this in the longest time. Over the last 2 years, we've really grown pelvic health rehabilitation. And then we're also going to be, this is where physical therapy is integrative. We're going to provide wellness screens. So for instance, if you don't have a problem, you don't really need to see your doctor, you don't really necessarily need to see a therapist, but you just want to know, what should I do for my flexibility? What should I do for strength? We're going to do wellness screenings so that we'll be able to give you just an idea of what we think that you should do. We are going to have a Survivorship Center there. So survivorship is from the time of diagnosis all the way through your cancer journey and even post-cancer, after you've been considered cancer-free. So Survivorship Center is really focused on not only the person who has cancer, but also the caregivers. And so they'll have oncology rehab, integrative oncology, psychosocial oncology, sexual health and family planning for those who are younger who are experiencing cancer, and a lot of the James Care for Life programming. So we were very intentional with having integrative medicine, orthopedic physical therapy, and survivorship. Those all marry each other. These were intentional services to put together because their services and their service lines complement each other, they use each other, and they all have a community program piece. A lot of the James Care for Life, if you could see some of the things, the mind, body, and spirit training, and some of the cooking classes, they do Reiki, they do a lot of music therapy. A lot of these things will transition into services we can do in the community. And this is one I purposely kept this very vague because I think we really want to learn and we want to understand what the community needs. Some of the programs that everybody talks about intergenerational approach, one of the things that we will do, we are going to have students here. We are going to have pharmacy students, we're going to have social work students. And what we really want to do is, the one example I like is the pharmacy students, that they work with groups of people who are struggling with understanding their medications. Say, for instance, they're taking some herbal medications, so they're taking vitamins, and they're not sure how their medications interact with those, and they may not have a doctor's visit right away. So these are types of programs that we will be providing. Another program that we do is we work on technology. There's a gap sometimes. I mean, I work with my own mother on technology. It just is what it is. And you know what, to be honest, my kids work on it with me. I can't even keep up with all the things that they're doing now. So it really focusing on and making sure that you can access your health, and you can access my health and my chart, and making sure that those things aren't pulling you away from healthcare, but pulling you towards it. So those are some of just some of the things that we can do, but again, these things will help us. We still have a couple years, and then also, I know that the City of Upper Arlington has great programming, so we want to make sure that we fill in gaps. We don't want to overlap, but just fill in gaps and things that they may not be able to offer that we can because of us being the medical center. So I did want to highlight, I just got a few more things that I wanted to highlight, specialty areas. We do offer specialty areas and specialty programs. We do offer exercises medicine. Has anybody ever heard of that? Oh, I was hoping for one. It's my program. So I hold it dear to my heart. Anyway, so we've done it for a couple years, and it's really an effort to get people to be more physically active. And the goal is for the physician to be involved. It's a physician referral program, and we're going to do it in the fitness facility, in the fitness space. But it's just to get people to meet you wherever you are in your journey, to meet you there, right there. And it's a high-touch type of program. It's 11 weeks. So if you haven't started and you just want to get started, or you've had an injury, or if you have Parkinson's, or you have MS, we meet you where you are. And these are programs that are designed to meet you whatever your ability, to make sure that you can be physically active in that ability. We will have a sports recovery lounge, and it's kind of an athletic training sports space where if you do, you get hurt, you tweak your back at work and you're like, oh, should I work out, or should I do this? We're gonna have hours where you can just ask somebody. You tweaked it you were a little aggressive in a step class. But it's just a nice spot to be able to ask and have a specialist there to be able to ask those questions. And we will be doing some sports rehab there as well. And then the last one I wanted to highlight, again, we have many more. I just picked a few to highlight for you. But mindfulness in motion, this is an 8-week program. I've actually done this program. It was originally designed for teachers and ER staff. And it was really, I think most people, when you think of mindfulness, you think of, kind of your legs crossed and your fingers out, and you're like, that type of thing. I mean, who doesn't, right? I did. But this is really, it's looking at mindfulness when you're moving. It's looking at mindfulness when you're in a stressful situation. You're having an argument with a child. You're a teacher, and you've got a child that's misbehaving. How do you control your emotions in that moment to keep your momentum going and be able to shelf that and deal with that in an appropriate manner? So it's really just controlling your emotions and also understanding your triggers. So this was a really good, I took this right before the pandemic, and I have to tell you, this was a great thing for me in different situations when you got frustrated with your kids being home at school, when it first started and they were all home in your space all the time. I definitely used this type of thing. So that's what that program is. And again, the key component of all of this, and that was my last slide, is really just to know that we do have medical space. However, we don't want that. We don't want to be upstairs away from you all. We want this to be integrative. We want to have programming that you want us to build, and we want to do it with you. So thank you very much, and I will turn it over to our design team.
backwards, what you think it's going to be. All right, so we wanted to spend just a few minutes before we break up and we go and talk about the programming boards and the stacking and just make sure that we understand some of these words that we're using for what we were really considering multi-purpose and multi-generational spaces. So when you hear the word gym, I know most people think about basketball or volleyball, which seem to be the obvious program spaces that one would do in a gym. But we wanted to make sure that you understand that in addition to those types of spaces, this gives us a large room that can be used for things such as a table tennis tournament. It can be used for pickleball. It can be used for a community event. Say it's kind of a rainy day and Parks and Rec wants to get out all the big inflatables and do an obstacle course for the kids. This is a big space where that can occur. The large span space also gives us the opportunity to have a suspended walking and running track that will go around the space, or any other kinds of program elements. If there's an exercise class that has a lot of interest and participation, this might allow them to program it in that space. Again, just a big multi-use space for everyone. Pools, I know the last community engagement session I stood by the aquatic center and there were lots of comments about lap swimming and what people wanted to see in the pools. I am a mom. I have 2 young kids. I mean, having a place to bring my kids in the wintertime to swim and kind of burn off some energy as a family, this allows opportunities for that. It also gives a space that can be programmed. So water aerobic classes can occur there. Swim lessons. I don't know how many of you have tried to get swim lessons for your kids in the winter around here, but that's challenging to do. So again, just a multiple use space, not just focused on lap swimming or fitness. The fitness space, when we say fitness, it's not just the big barbells and dumbbells. There's also weighted resistance equipment that can be used. There's different kinds of recumbent bikes, spin bikes. This is going to be probably a little more dispersed in the center. That again will create just lots of opportunities for people to find equipment that they are comfortable with at their own fitness level. And then group exercise. Group exercise are simply rooms that can be programmed for a variety of exercise equipment or exercise classes, So I think last time we heard some questions about, where can I have my dance class? Where will we do Zumba? Can we have martial arts? Yes. Like we are programming in spaces like that, hard surface, lots of open space the city can use to program spaces like that.
So Katie didn't introduce herself, so I'll do it for her. It's nice to see a lot of reoccurring faces, by the way. I recognize a lot of you from the first open house. So Katie Freeland is a secret weapon on the design team because not only is she an architect with MSA, she's also a resident of Upper Arlington. So you're well represented for sure by having her on our team.
I just assumed you all knew me since I live
here.
Is that how that works?
I'm not fortunate enough to live here. I live in Chicago, so I'm part of the Perkins and Will team, and my name is Lindsay Peckinpah. So as Katie said, we have had a lot of questions that it came in from the last open house as well as from the website about just what are the intended multi-purpose uses of many spaces. And we just wanted to reiterate to you tonight and for the folks listening at home that the entire facility is really intended to be flexible in its use, and that's going to allow the city over time to program the facility to keep up with the needs of the community. So in addition to the spaces that Katie just reviewed, we're also going to have ample meeting room space, and these meeting rooms will really be set up again to be multi-purpose in nature. The type of finish and character that allow them to be attractive to the rental market as well. So we could see corporate functions, enrichment and educational programs in these type of spaces, social programming. And then we also have a series of what we're calling program rooms. And program rooms are multi-purpose in nature as well. We like to think of these as more resilient type spaces. So these have durable materials. They can do some light group fitness classes. They can do some arts and crafts courses as well. They're really intended to be a flexible room that the city can program into and flex over time. And if you haven't gone to the website yet, there's flyers at the front where you can pick up a flyer or scan a QR code to get back on. So one quick thing before we break out into the work sessions. We are going to ask you to save the date for February of next year. I know that seems a little far out, but we are going to be back in town, and we will be pairing our next community open house with the State of the City address. There will be focus groups, online surveys, and email blasts that are going out with more activities between tonight and then, but we will be back in person for that meeting on the 17th.